reviewing the week because we'd much more be interested in getting your opinion on the 30-man squad, the TV deal, and so forth. So typically we rehash the games every week, and we'll wait till you're gone for that portion.
Great.
Yeah, what are you like most fired up about? So we can talk about that first.
I mean, I think it probably makes most sense to talk about the roster first. And wherever you guys want to go, I can just follow and offer an opinion because it's what I do. I'm just full of opinions.
All right, Pete. So do you want to lead us in? We'll do the intro and outros later after Matt's gone, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So then, what do you want me to lead in?
You should do like a little. Today we have Matt Doyle. Thank you very much.
Yeah, like pretend it's like just like interview instead of at the beginning instead of like in the end or whatever.
The eloquent voice, the tactical master. Give them, you're like welcoming a speaker onto the stage.
I'm ready.
I'm smoke ready. Up his ass.
Gracing you with my presence. I mean,
yeah, come on.
Oh,
that's me.
Oh, that's no
Get
good.
it together, Ian. Come on.
What is he? Is he like microwaving burritos?
I don't know. I'm just gonna jump in. Let's get this thing going.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So joining us today on slashMLS podcast, we do have a very special guest. Username MLS Analyst. We've got motherfucking Matt Doyle on the line.
Hey!
All right. Thanks for joining us, Matt.
An intro befitting my status. Yeah, that was poetry. I'm glad they sent a poet for this.
That's what I signed up for. Well, hey, thanks for joining us. We've been really excited to talk to you, especially with, boy, there's been a lot of news this week.
Yeah, we had a pretty crazy Monday, and it's kept going into Tuesday, I think, but yesterday was definitely kind of a red-letter day in U.S. soccer.
Yeah, no kidding. I'd say big highlights would have been, obviously, the announcement of the 30-man roster. We also saw a groundbreaking TV deal for our league. And something that, if you've got time, we'd like to talk about U.S. soccer eliminating the pay-for-play. So we'll start right at the top. I know that you're probably excited to talk about the 30-man roster. We'd love to get your opinions there. I guess big news is, big news at least on the internet is EJ being left off the roster. So if you want to start there and give us some other thoughts, we'd love to hear it.
Well, the EJ issue is a tricky one because he's a guy who, when he's playing, when he's starting, when he has responsibility, it has been really good for Jurgen Klinsmann and has been a decent locker room presence. But when he's not a starter, he's a liability. He does not do the stuff in terms of chemistry that I think Jurgen wants, and he didn't do the stuff that Bob wanted, and he didn't do the stuff that Ziggy wanted, and you add that up, and you take into consideration the way he trashed his DC United teammates last week, and I think Jurgen said what he can bring to us isn't worth what he takes away in terms of chemistry and togetherness on the roster. So EJ kind of wrote his own check with this one, and from everything I've heard, that is the reason why he was not taken. It's not that Jurgen thought he couldn't get the job done. It's that his talent wasn't enough to balance out his attitude.
Do you think, minus his very well thought out interview, that he might be on the team? I mean, do you think it was that close? Because obviously he's very talented, but yeah, he does have a history of being a disruptive influence, and it just seems like he's got this one last, just right before the announcement, he's piping up.
Yeah, I thought. I mean, I did my roster predictions last week, and I had him at 80%. 80%, not just making the 30-man roster, but going to Brazil, because there's no other clear-cut backup for Josie Altidore. And this is my reason why I thought Eddie Johnson had to be there.
Yeah.
We all remember the Costa Rica game in Costa Rica last year when Jurgen trotted out Landon, who was in very good form, and Clint, who was not, but nonetheless is still Clint Dempsey, trotted out them as our front line. And we got annihilated in Costa Rica because we weren't able to possess the ball. Neither of those guys is really able to fight off central defenders and do the stuff a center forward needs to do. 3 or 4 days later, we played Mexico. EJ is playing as that target forward, and we annihilate Mexico. He was able to do everything you wanted a center forward to do in terms of holding the ball up, connecting passes, threatening, obviously with his speed and obviously with his athletic ability getting onto the ends of crosses. If Josie Altidore can't do that, Eddie Johnson is our best option. It's still, I think, for the U.S. national team. So now we're kind of banking on, Josie is fit and healthy and ready to go for 90 minutes a game. Hopefully that adds up to at least 360 minutes. I'm not going to count on anything beyond that. And if he's not, then Terrence Boyd has to do it. And while Terrence Boyd is in very good goal-scoring form right now in Austria is a lower-level league than MLS, and Terrence Boyd has never shown well for the full U.S. national team. He's looked kind of like a kid running around out there a little bit clueless and getting pushed around. So that is my on-field concern with deciding to leave Eddie Johnson out.
So we talked last week because the EJ story where he bashed his teammates came out before we did our episode last week, and I had a hypothesis about that. I felt like he might have been trying to echo what Ben Olsen wants them to do tactically, because they know they don't have the quality in the midfield. They know they don't have the width. And I was thinking, maybe he was just trying to say what Ben Olsen's telling them in the locker room, and it sort of just came out wrong.
I mean, that is as good a theory as any, because the reputation with EJ is not that he's a bad guy, it's that he's a knucklehead. So yeah. he was probably trying to give his own take on something that Ben Olsen said. But when you put it like that, and I mean, let's face it came off as ridiculously bad. Then whether you're just a knucklehead or whether you're a bad guy, you're going to burn some bridges and you're going to cause some disruption. And, Jurgen is taking care of all the family business. Martin Vasquez out, Eddie Johnson out, Breck Shea out. Anybody who rocked the boat, I guess, even a little bit, didn't make the cut.
Will you talk a little bit about the back line and the defensive concerns?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to go to the World Cup with an entire defense who has never played a minute in defense at a World Cup. And that's something we haven't done since 1990. And we all know how that one turned out. DeMarcus Beasley, who I think will start at left back and should start at left back, is the only player in the back line who has World Cup experience, but all of it came in midfield. Mm-hmm. That's a concern. The fact that Beasler and Gonzalez looked like the main pairing throughout most of the hexagonal, but now Gonzalez is in poor form and is hurt. Mm-hmm. Does that mean Clarence Goodson comes in? He's given us good minutes over the past year, but I don't think anybody should be overly comfortable with the idea of Clarence Goodson starting in Brazil. Jeff Cameron is probably the most naturally gifted of all those guys, but he's played primarily right back for the last 2.5 years. So there aren't any easy. I mean, John Anthony Brooks had a good 3 weeks in the Bundesliga, and he might be our 4th guy in the depth chart. But there aren't any easy answers right here. Matt Beasler's going to have the tournament of his life.
Now, in front of those guys is either going to be Jermaine Jones or Cal Beckerman, and you've wrote at length about how you'd like to see Beckerman and Bradley play more. Do you have faith that Klinsmann's going to do that?
No, I think Jones is going to be the default starter. Probably still the first or second name on the team sheet for Jurgen. He just trusts the guy. They have a bond, and anytime he's available for selection, he has been selected. And I think it's going to be problematic because I think in the past when we've played without a true defensive midfielder, we have been bad in the World Cup. And if that means you have to leave a more talented player on the bench, then so be it. The 2002 is a great example. We went with Pablo Mastroeni in the 3 good games, right? Mm-hmm. That was the wins over Portugal and Mexico, and then the loss to Germany where we really outplayed them. And we went with our more talented lineup for the South Korea and Poland games. And South Korea, we barely hung on for a draw. Poland, we got annihilated.
Right.
We've always needed somebody to shield the back line. And I just want to give a plug for Devin Pluler, who does Essential Winger column and is also an RMLS regular. He has an article on that today on MLSsoccer.com.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I got about halfway through before I had to run into my siblings' concert. So, anything else fascinating from the roster? We know DeAndre Yedlin's going to be in the 30-man, but probably not on the 23-man. Is there any of the surprises like Timmy Chandler or Yedlin have a chance of making the 23?
I don't think Yedlin does. If you saw what Diego Fagundes did to him the other day, can you imagine him going against Schürrle or Cristiano Ronaldo? That's terrifying.
Right.
Timmy Chandler surprised me. This is a guy who I thought had burnt bridges. He didn't turn down call-ups to friendlies. He turned down call-ups to World Cup qualifiers. Oh, and by the way, anytime he's played in anything other than 45 degrees maximum, he has wilted after about 30 minutes. He has been absolutely useless in heat. So I just don't get it. I don't get that at all, especially because we have 4 other right backs that we could have brought. It seems to me like a good idea would have been, take a chance on Juan Agadello. Bring in he's an extra forward who could do a lot of the hold-up play that EJ would have been relied upon to do.
Right.
So I don't understand that one in particular, but we are talking about roster spots number 22, 23.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a huge deal. The most important thing is he's got to get that central defense right, and he's got to figure out exactly what he wants to do with that central midfield. I hope it's Beckerman and Bradley. I'm not holding my breath, though.
So, Matt, if without the benefit of seeing the friendlies right before we go, if you're Klinsmann, who do you start at right back today?
Michael Parkhurst.
Okay.
I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think we need to have somebody who's mistake-free and who's smart defensively. And
that's considering that Fabian Johnson's probably playing left back, right?
I think Beasley's playing left back. I think Fabian Johnson's going to end up starting at left midfield because Johnson is a very smart midfielder in terms of his defensive responsibilities, very good in possession, and he's a chance creator. So I think you probably start him at left midfield, and then you bring Donovan on in that spot or maybe at a forward spot and drop Dempsey back as a second-half change of pace sub.
Okay. Now, the first friendly is against Azerbaijan, which is not great at soccer. They're not Armenia. They're not Estonia. They haven't had a renaissance lately. What can we possibly learn from that first friendly?
Who's fit? That's about it.
Okay.
How much of a chance Julian Green really has? We could maybe learn that, and I think we could learn if Cameron and Beasler is going to be the central defensive pair, but I'm not going to say we will learn that definitively.
And if you were to give a percentage similar to people making the roster, what percent would you give the fact that Julian Green goes to Brazil because he was guaranteed the spot to switch?
It's a good question. I mean, nobody knows what really
gut
happened.
reaction, Matt. What do you feel?
I think it's a coin flip. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised to see him there, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's left off the squad. I'll tell you what, the fact that Shea did not make the roster gives Julian Green a much better chance because Green provides some of that pace and sort of fearless attacking endeavor from either flank, and Shea was really the only one who had brought that under Klinsmann.
All right, so I hope you guys don't mind. Matt, I know you've been following MLS since 1996, right?
That's right.
And I have also. So if it's all right with you guys, I kind of want to nerd out a little bit on the old days.
Do it!
So there have been a couple of threads you've commented on where people have talked about the best team in MLS history, and you've said LA Galaxy 2011, and I counter with DC 98. So tell me why I'm wrong.
That's a really, really good question. I think the main reason you're wrong is that they have Landon Donovan and you don't.
Well, we had Marco Echeverri and they didn't.
Echeverri was great, but the main problem with that DC United team, which I think Chicago showed in the playoffs. No, that was '99.
That was '98. That was '98.
'98. You're right. Was that if you shot?
I cried after that MLS Cup. I was 8 years old.
If you shut Echeverri down, you could really put them on the back foot. Now, maybe not necessarily put them on the back foot, but you could gum up the works, and everything was a little less crisp and a little less incisive. Whereas with Donovan, if you're trying to shut him down, he's going to change hats. All right, I'm not a creator. I'm going to stretch the field, but he still had world-class speed at that point. I'm going to stretch the field, and I'm going to create on the run. Well, if you go chasing him, then you're breaking your shape, which is exactly what Houston did in MLS Cup that year and in 2012. And I just think he poses so many problems. Teams in MLS haven't been equipped to deal with it, and I think that's the big reason why. By a nose, I give it to the 2011 Galaxy team. But honestly, 98 DC is number 2, and I think probably 2008 Crew is number 3.
Interesting. Okay. So you've also talked in those threads how
I could tell that I've hurt your feelings a little bit.
I mean, here's what I want to do. I want to counter with all of the players on that team that played for internationally, which was it was 10 of them, or it was everybody but the goalie, because the goalie was either Prestis or Garlic or whatever. But we had Jeff Agus and we had Ben Olsen and Richie Williams, who got caps here and there. Ben Olsen, he went to a World Cup after his prime, which is kind of weird.
He did. Ben Olsen. Well, I mean, the only reason Ben Olsen missed out on 2002 was because he had that devastating ankle injury. But he would have been one of the core players in 2002. Ended up being really good. But no, I mean that was Lassiter and Moreno up front, Echeverri, Olsen, Richie Williams. Was Johnny Ace? Santa was right back. Who was left midfield for that team? Was it still Harks?
Yeah, Harks was on the team. '98 was his last year.
Okay, yeah.
And we still had Pope, and we had Agus.
Pope and Yamosa.
And Yamosa, that's right. I remember really liking Yamosa for some reason.
He was awesome. He was a great player.
I mean, that early MLS, they had a lot of national teamers, because there was 17 that went on that '98 team. But I was doing some research lately, and of the '94 team, 20 of 22 ended up playing in MLS, and most of them right away. So I feel like a lot of people forget that the '90s actually had a little bit of quality, even if they were losing a shit ton of money.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think you could say the first 4 years of the league, the quality was better than the next 6 or 7, because first contraction, then expansion, and also just interest from overseas clubs robbed MLS of a lot of their really, really the best American talent, other than Landon and Eddie Pope. And then the other thing was that, I mean, the designated player rule was not new in 2007. There was basically a designated player rule from about 96 to 99 or 2000. And that's where a lot of that lost money came from.
Right. I mean, I look at that DC team and I'm like, how the hell did I pay all those guys?
Salary cap, right?
Mm-hmm. So. And then Don Garber came in and broke us up, and I should be sad about that, but I'm really not, because it probably would have been bad for MLS if DC had won the first 7 MLS Cups. So
Matt, talking about the old days, do you have a team that's been pulling at your strings since then? Do you have somebody that you've followed? I know you're obviously a fan of the league, but is there a team that you started with, or someone that's been kind of your team the whole time?
Well, when MLS started, I was a student at UConn, so I was a little closer to the Revs, but I mean the Metro Stars were there, 2.5 hours away as well. I probably went to 20 games each over the first 3 or 4 years. Neither was particularly easy to root for. Neither was a lot of fun, but I knew
That first Revs team should have been better, shouldn't it have been? They had Alexi Lawless and...
They had, but Alexi didn't love a lot of the things about that team, and they never they never really had direction. You know what set DC United apart early in the early days of MLS was that they had Bruce. Bruce was the most important thing in MLS in the first 5 years. But I moved to New York after college, so that was easy for me. I was like, all right, I'm going to join ESC and be a MetroStars fan. And so I would say from 2001 to till 2009, I was a New York fan, and then once I realized, hey, I'm going to be able to do this for a living, it was pretty easy to drop all rooting interests.
I am going to say though, right before you came on, I called it.
Yeah,
you did. You did.
Yeah, Josh made the prediction.
Yeah.
There was a couple.
One prediction right. My other prediction was that Montreal would beat Kansas City, which was my crazy prediction. So I didn't actually think that was going to happen.
We do
pretty
that.
bad one.
We make bold predictions at the end of every episode, and sometimes they are stinkers.
Yeah.
However ridiculous the game was to get it there, I predicted Chicago would take 3 points from New York this week.
It was a very, very good prediction, and Chicago is not going to be great this year, but with Chip and Hoya in that midfield, they are a lot of fun to watch, and they have a lot of that future. I'm not going to say juggernaut, but they're going to play some really, really nice soccer over the next half decade if they keep those two kids.
So speaking of pretty bad teams, and Montreal in particular, I know you've written a lot about Justin Mapp, and we want to see someone rescue Justin Mapp. And Pete mentioned that DC should. What do you think about that?
I think you would have to give up a lot to get him right now, and I don't know if DC wants to do that, given that they've hit a good run of form.
Yeah.
And they seem to have a bunch of chemistry. And the other thing is I don't think Justin Mapp really fits a diamond midfield. And that's mostly what DC's playing at the moment.
Well, we could go back to an empty bucket. It's no big deal.
I don't think you want to do that if you're winning. As good as Justin Mapp is, you don't want to blow up what you're doing tactically.
Well, we did it 2012. I mean, D-Row went down, but still.
Right.
And I feel like with someone getting service to Eddie again and not just playing that hold-up position, that maybe he might start finding his form and be able to put a couple of heads on balls.
I mean, maybe, but to me, it's like if you won, 3 out of 4 and 4 out of 6?
Yeah.
With only one loss in that time, that would be nuts to even consider deviating from what you're doing unless it's truly a world superstar on offer. No, I mean,
it makes sense then. Where does Justin Mapp go if he can get rescued today? If you play fantasy commissioner, where does he go that he fits all the pieces?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I mean, you want a team that really emphasizes flank play, so clearly,
Columbus?
I mean, he would be an improvement for them. Columbus would be good, but I don't think Montreal would want to trade him within the Eastern Conference. San Jose would be very nice. I think San Jose would work pretty well for him. And I think, Portland doesn't really need him, but the way they use their wingers...
They don't need another midfielder.
They do. Why not? Let's give them another one.
So, yeah, I mean, I think San Jose and Columbus are probably your two best bets if you want to rescue Justin Mapp.
I'd like to see Portland play a 4-6-0. That's what I'm hoping for.
You haven't seen that yet?
I think
you should watch some more Portland because there's.
Yeah, honestly, with Gaston in there, it looks a lot like a 4-6-0 at times. But, with the new Nigerian kid they got today, I think those days are done.
So you've said on the subreddit about how you like the Supporter Shield more than the MLS Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Do you? Why do you think that?
Because I think what you accomplish over the course of an entire year is more important than what you accomplish over the course of a month. Which is not to say I don't like the MLS Cup. I love MLS Cup. What I really love is both, because now we have teams like last year's Sporting Kansas City, which was a really good team. Mm-hmm. Last year's New York, which was a really fun team, and San Jose, and LA the year before that. And all those teams are really good teams who deserved trophies and deserve to be remembered. But what's the team that we really remember as a great team? 2011 LA.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because they won both.
Mm-hmm.
And
Because
they
won both.
And they won the one of two true supporter shields.
That it? Oh, I see. I don't. You're a supporter, so you get to call it that.
No, because that's one of the only 2 years that they played a truly balanced schedule.
Yeah, I don't care.
Bam!
Would it be more fair if like home teams like before 2002, higher seeds got a really huge advantage. They got to play 180 out of 270 minutes at home. I wouldn't if we did something more like that, or if we played every game at the higher seed or something.
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind single elimination, but I don't think the playoff format, as we've had it the last couple of years, is all that bad a thing. I think the thing that really messes it up is the international date right in the middle. I don't like that. But honestly,
that really screwed up Portland last year.
Well, what screwed up Portland was that they were never going to beat RSL. Christ just absolutely took them apart. But honestly, what it comes down to is win your games. If you want to be a great team, if you're really that good, win your games. Somebody's going to win their games. Somebody is going to make it to the final, and somebody's going to win it.
Right?
Are you that team?
You know, it's funny, you said when you were listing off the top three, you gave it to 2008 Columbus Crew, another team that won the double.
Won both, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the criteria for me. The only team that really breaks that is 98 DC.
Because we won CONCACAF, and we beat Vasco da Gama, so
exactly.
we're absolved.
Yes, you're forgiven.
You were mentioning Bruce Arena earlier. I wonder... because after he left DC in the 90s, we had 1 year of Rongen, and it was really good. We won the double. And then after that, it kind of went downhill. I wonder if a similar thing is going to happen to RSL, where Jason Kreis isn't here this year, and it's fine, but then next year, Ramondo's gone, and RSL doesn't really get that much better from a player perspective. Are they in trouble in next year?
Wait, Ramondo's gone?
I mean, he's aging. When he eventually leaves, because I feel like he's the only goalie who actually adds value in MLS.
Well, he's only 34, so I don't I don't think we're talking 2015. I think we might be talking 2018 or so. And look, I still have questions about Jeff Cassar, but everybody I've talked to says he's the hardest working guy that they've been around, which I think is hyperbole, but it speaks to the fact that he's probably a really hard-working guy. And, hey, they're undefeated. They are unbeaten through 10 games. They've gotten a couple of pretty nice results along the way. It hasn't all been perfect, but he's already showing that he is finding and trusting new talent, just like Luke Mulholland, and helping develop the young talent that's already there in the case of Aaron Mound and the rookie, Allen, whose first name I've forgotten, who got a lot of pretty good minutes at the start of the season. So he has the makings of a really good coach from what I've seen.
Yeah, that's true, especially about Mulholland. I mean, I'm a Real Hawks fan, so I got to see a lot of him last year, and I'm surprised at what he's doing at RSL, honestly.
He seems like a guy who just understands the game and understands where he fits in and doesn't try to play over his own head.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt, not to switch gears too much, can we get just some quick thoughts from you on the TV deal?
I mean, you guys honestly know as much as I do at this point. The numbers look obviously really good. Hopefully that means something for me at the end of the year. But I like the Friday night and then Sunday afternoon MLS blocks, the fact that you can know you're turning on your TV at that time and you're going to watch Major League Soccer for the next 8 years.
Yeah,
that is pretty impressive to me. I'm wondering how effective the ESPN3 out of region broadcasts are going to be, because I love MLS Live, and I know a lot of people, aside from the blackouts, which are just going to be there no matter who has the rights, I know a lot of people really like that platform. So that would be my concern. But, I mean, as great as it all is, this is, I mean, do the math. It's not the exponential boost to the salary cap that I think a lot of people were hoping for.
Mhm.
This is, oh, you know, we're at 3.3 million now. Well, maybe we'll be at 5.3 million in a couple of years. So it's not, we're not going to be competing with Manchester City and Chelsea all of a sudden.
Well, and especially because I understand a lot of that's going to be going into the USL Pro agreements, and especially in the youth academies. And once, especially now that we've heard that U.S. Soccer is mandating that pay-for-play is no longer a thing for U.S. Soccer sanctioned things. So I feel like, I mean, investing in the academy is a good thing, but it also means there's less money for the first team roster.
Yeah, but it's always been you got to play the long game with MLS, and I think if soccer-specific stadiums, and control of those revenues were essential for MLS to survive, academies that can turn out top pros are essential for MLS to thrive.
Mhm.
If we're really going to be one of the best leagues in the world a decade from now, we have to do it ourselves. We can't rely on buying talent in the way that the Premiership and La Liga and Serie A, and even to an extent Germany, have done. It has to be homegrown, and I'm glad to see the money going there. And it's been it's been a long time coming from where I sit.
Yeah, and I feel like I've talked recently with a coach in the Minnesota youth system, and he was talking about how the terrible Bradenton model sort of held U.S. soccer back for a couple of years because it was great for Donovan and Beckerman in that class, but then, then they are only pouring their resources into 30 guys year after year for a couple of years. Now they've sort of spread out, and this sort of investment, he feels like, really shows that.
I'm not quick to criticize Bradenton, because without Bradenton there was nothing, and this is better than nothing. And what really held U.S. soccer back wasn't Bradenton. It was the fact that nobody was really interested in investing in and creating a Bradenton for each and every club. There should be a Bradenton in New England. There should be a Bradenton in New York, in LA, in San Jose, all over the country. And nobody was interested in investing in that because nobody really thought you could make a dime owning a soccer team. And now, 10 or 15 years after somebody could have taken the risk, people are realizing, hey, the value of these franchises are going up and up and up, and it's worth investing now, and hopefully you get that boost from the homegrown kids that places like Barcelona and Borussia Dortmund and the great clubs in the world have always got.
So for you, is it those academies that's going to be the key for us in 2022 and 2026?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, maybe not as much in 2022, but it's still probably a lot. Certainly 2026, I would expect 80% of the U.S. national team to be kids who came through MLS academies. And if it's not, then something's gone wrong.
Right. Which will be great, because that's the one that's going to be here, hopefully.
Hey.
Oh, we can dream.
Yeah. So
I don't know how much more time you have with us.
I got to wrap it up, fellas.
Right.
Okay, cool. Any last second questions? Oh, do you want to contribute to our bold prediction segment?
Good call.
Bold prediction this week, or the World Cup, or all year, or 30 years down the line, whatever you want. It's fine.
Yeah.
And let me just give you the level of bold prediction. This was when I predicted that Montreal was going to beat Kansas City. So the bolder, the better.
All right. I'm going to say this. The U.S. gets a result against Germany. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I think the U.S. gets a result against Germany. And I think they get a result against Portugal, too.
That is bold.
Yeah, that is bold. Yeah.
I think we gotta get a result against Portugal too. I feel like we're better than we were in 2002, and they're a little bit worse than they were in 2002. But maybe that's just.
I think they're not as good all around as they were back then. More than that, though, they're going to be playing in Manaus, and it'll be 85 degrees with 90% humidity, and European teams suck in hot weather. It's just plain and simple. And I don't think there's any chance in hell that a European team wins this World Cup. It's Brazil or Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Not us.
Not that bold.
Not that bold.
We really appreciate you stopping by today. We were pretty excited about this, so definitely thanks for coming on.
Hopefully I lived up to the expectations,
Yes,
fellas.
you
It was a pleasure.
Right on, buddy.
Thank you very
We will probably tweet out when this podcast goes up. We'll just throw a mention
Tomorrow.
at you, so you'll know when it goes up tomorrow. And
Yep.
yeah, thanks again. It was awesome.
All right, guys. Let's do it again after the World Cup.
All right.
For sure, yeah.
Deal.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. All right, high five, everybody. Now we have to do a rest of the podcast.
We don't look like idiots.
I hope I didn't monopolize the questions too much with the.
No, because you had
old
questions to ask. I was just going to be
Right.
like, what's wrong with Portland? Like, what am I going to say?
No, I'm sad that you didn't do that because that was so hilariously pathetic.
What?
How you,
The way
how
it
you
came
just said,
out.
yeah, the way you just said what's wrong with Portland was hilarious.
Well, maybe next time he comes on, I want to try to keep it quasi-serious. Though, Pete, big props for for giving the man a proper introduction.
Yeah, that was
that was brilliant.
I don't know if I would have the balls to say that to him.
Yeah, no,
that was great.
That was good.
And he
Right
seemed
on.
to enjoy it too, so that's the best part, you know.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
gonna. And I think I got through. I wrote down a bunch of questions I want to ask him. I think I got through all of them.
Nice.
Yeah, and he
So-
was here. I mean, he was here just over 30 minutes. So I don't feel like we imposed too much. And yeah, that was great. I can't believe he offered to come back after the World Cup. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's amazing.
After we win.
Yes, after we win the World Cup.
Yeah.
You know, if you really want Josh's question about Portland to get in there, you could just do some creative editing with Matt's answers.
I don't think I'm gonna. The only editing I'm doing there is editing a little bit of the pauses and my beeping that
Yeah.
I shut
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, which is what, a
There's-
fire
there's-
alarm or something like that? No big deal.
There's this really annoying thing. I don't even know what it does. It says battery-powered automatic standby sump pump system, and it's been beeping on and off for like 4 days. So I just
On your
unplugged-
computer?
No, it's in the room.
Oh, I was like, the sump pump shouldn't have anything to do with your computer.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, but hey, living in Minnesota as you do, you might want to replace the battery because you guys know it floods there around this time of year, yeah?
Not anymore. The snow's all gone.
Are you okay? All right. I just
Yeah,
remember everything getting fucked up royally when I lived in the Upper Midwest. And
No, yeah, no. That period happened, and it's over now because
okay. Good.
that's what happens when all the snow melts. It starts flooding everywhere.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Or you
So
can
do we
just have
wanna-
it rain a lot. Okay, so let's do the intro now.
Yeah, do we want to do a little bit of housekeeping and
Yeah.
get the intro in?
Yep.
So, since
Put it-
there's a separate intro for Matt, do you want me to mention like upcoming? Or where are we? Are we going to do our recap
Very-
and then put Matt in, or are we going to go straight into him?
I think to build people's interest in the podcast, we should just go straight away. Because then
I agree.
that way, you know, people hear 30 minutes of bullshit, people are going to want to skip through that. I'm not saying that us talking is bullshit, but it's not going to be as clearly as interesting as the Matt Doyle stuff, right?
I think
Yeah,
that is
so-
pretty sure you just said
Like,
that.
people who enjoy our bullshit, that's awesome, you know?
Yeah. Well, I
mean-
think you're right because everyone's going to sit through Matt Doyle. Either you're here because of Matt Doyle, or you like our bullshit. You'll listen to Matt Doyle and then our
Right.
bullshit.
You're right.
Yeah.
So how about we do an intro? We'll do everybody say their names, and then I'll say, you know, and we've got a special guest joining us today, and then you can edit in the intro that I gave him.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's get it going here. All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of slashMLS podcast. I will again be filling in for Chris. My name is Pete, username PunkRockPete.
Hi, my name is Dennis, resident Canadian, username Denmar.
I'm Ian, resident North Carolinian? I don't know. Username Armascarbu.
And I am Josh, resident Scandinavian. Is 977ist.
Well,
That's right.
Oh yeah. We had this argument. Again.
Yeah, we can just keep doing it.
Well, besides the Scandinavian thing, guys, I'm pretty excited. We've got a pretty awesome guest tonight.
Oh yeah?
We do. Oh, do you want me to say it again?
No.
Is that we're gonna edit it in, right? That's the plan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so then we
right there.
do 35 minutes of Mr. Doyle,
Sick.
and you guys want to do a little intro back from that? Or...
Yeah, that's your job again, though.
Okay, here we go. Well, I don't know about you guys, but that was pretty fucking exciting.
Yeah, it was awesome. Although I am at least a little bit pleased that he conceded that maybe DC-98 was pretty good. So.
I love that we had to take it there, Ian. I love that you had to just challenge him on it, and like we're gonna make this argument happen.
Yeah, because I remember watching that. I mean, I know I was 8, and so there is a little bit of that you're young bias where everything is much better when you're young. But that was a really good soccer team.
Yeah.
And they beat.
I wish that we could have had him here a few weeks ago because I would have liked to see the EJ Wando argument with Matt.
Yeah. Well, we can have him in. We're gonna have him in after the World Cup, so that'll be exciting. Yeah. We can do a blow-by-blow breakdown.
And if we lose,
would the U.S. have won the World Cup if Eddie Johnson had gone?
Oh wow!
Yeah, that is,
Oh no!
You stole my frickin' article from after the World Cup.
I just stomped all over it.
It's okay.
You can give me a co-writing headline on it.
It's okay because the answer
still
is
write
no.
it.
That's a one word.
I will fight you on this, Josh.
It's not. I mean, he's not.
Well, guys, we covered a lot of the news this week. Should we talk about some matches that happened?
Yeah. I can not talk about the Portland-LA game that I accidentally slept through because I was at a rooftop party until 7 a.m.
So
I heard it was really boring until the last 5 minutes.
That's a worthy reason to miss the game.
Yeah.
It was. You know what game was pretty great though? There was this game in Foxborough.
Oh yeah, according to the schedule screen cap, it looks like Seattle won that one 50-5, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, that's
interesting.
According to the image in front of me, that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
We could not talk about that.
It's curious how the 50's in a different font than every.
Yeah, it really looks like the 50. Someone put it in there with MS Paint, actually.
That is baseless accusation.
Yeah. No, I mean,
right, let me give you the 2-minute breakdown of that game. Everyone has, up to this point, tried to exploit the fact that the Sounders want to put 8 men into the attack. And some teams like Toronto in the early season and Columbus were effective at exploiting that, and the Sounders have gotten better at closing those gaps. But I think we saw a couple of things in this game that are just huge standouts. Number one, DeAndre Yedlin cannot play a right winger and a right back at the same time. He cannot be, as far up the field as Clint Dempsey and expect that just his pace is going to get him back on the counterattack.
He reminds me of a poor man's Andy Nahar to a certain extent. I know I bring him up a lot, but he was sold to Anderlecht, and he plays consistently for Anderlecht for a reason. And he's the guy who actually does come back and play a little bit of defense.
Yeah, and we've talked about it. It's obviously it's not like he's playing out of position. Siggy and Jurgen are both telling him to play that forward role, but his defensive awareness has to get better because he does have the speed to come back, but he has to do it sooner. He has to recognize that counterattack.
And you need someone to support him while he does that. I mean, that's like that's kind of the classic rule of having an overlapping fullback. You call him an overlapping fullback because they overlap the winger who takes on a little bit of their defensive responsibility, so the team doesn't get pulled all crazy and get split center backs.
And typically you get that from Brad Evans. Brad Evans has great defensive responsibility as a right winger. He plays right back for the national team, but due to injuries, we played him at left back. And so,
who is up in front of him?
Little Marco Papa, the giveaway machine. His crosses and his service are beautiful, and you can see the creative playmaking just bubbling out of him. But his giveaways and his defensive responsibilities are just atrocious. I think we also saw that we have two incredible, I would say both are top 10 center backs in the league, if maybe top 15 arguably, in Traore and Marshall. But they are positional and...
Top 15 in the league? Both of them?
Yeah. Who are you going to take off that list?
Okay, let's see.
No, not the center backs. Who would you argue is the better center back in the pairing?
That depends.
There you go.
Against New England, it was Chad Marshall.
Well, I would say that this year it's been Chad Marshall, and last year Traore was a better player.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they're both great guys because they have great awareness, they have great, vision, but they are defensive positional. Neither of those guys are pacey. And so again, going back to that, when you've got that, overlapping right back and you don't have a winger playing defense, then you have to have at least one center back who can hustle his ass back there and stop the attack. And we just got burned over and over and over again, and it was a frustrating game.
I quit watching after 4-0 because I wanted to watch Game of Thrones. It
was a wise choice. It was a good episode. Really enjoyed this week's episode a lot more than I enjoyed the game.
I've been marathoning it because I need to rewatch because a lot of things didn't make sense to me, but now a lot of things do. That's beside the point. What is the point though? Is that I remember a couple weeks ago, like third week of the season, RSL played Toronto, and I was like, RSL is sort of that team that can really uniquely take advantage of what Toronto does shitty, and I feel like New England similarly is that unique team that has figured out how to play in their 4-4-2 with Teal Burnbury and Patty Mullins, who dropped to 11th in the draft, even though he was number 1 going into the combine. I feel like combines are super overrated.
Good for New England. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time talking about how the Sounders, failed. Well, no, but I mean, you're absolutely right that it's also on New England. It's not like it wasn't all defensive mistakes and bad positioning and bad strategy. Like, New England played an incredible game. They have Diego Fagundes, who was absolutely due for some goals. I picked them, when we did our tiers early in the season, I had them higher than I think anybody else because this is a team that
I had them in the second tier.
Yeah, that's a good spot for them. I think they're pushing to first. I
think so too.
They look dangerous. They've beat good teams over the last couple of weeks. I think that they are for real. They're not even playing with Gonsalves right now. They're seriously, huh?
And they haven't needed to. I will say, if I'm Seattle, I'm a little bit concerned about Stephen Fry, because I think the second and third goals he was either out of position or just bad at being a goalie. He was the MLS goalkeeper of the year back in 2007, and that was back when
I would put 2 of those goals squarely on his shoulders. Well, after the defensive failings, but
I think he's a bottom 5 MLS starting goalkeeper.
Bottom 5, wow.
Well, because I went through, there are a lot of really solid goalkeepers in MLS, and Stephen Fry used to be one of them.
I would have without actually looking at the list and trying to say, oh, he's better and he's better, I would have said like bottom 6 to 10 easily, like definitely bottom half. Like, I don't think there's an argument there, but bottom 5, that's.
I don't know. He's had a lot of injuries at the same time too, right? That's something else to consider. Is he was on an upward spiral? Upward trend, whatever you want to use the word today. And then, all the injuries that came after, he didn't play for a good 2 years, almost 2 full seasons he was out of action.
Absolutely.
And because of that, your stock goes straight down, right?
Yeah,
And that's why we picked him up, and he was cheap, and we ditched Sperning, who was a top 10 keeper, and just needed too much money. And Marcus Hahnemann is a salvageable backup, but he was better last year than he's been this year, and I don't know. That's definitely a concern for sure.
It is, but I don't know that it's so much. I don't think you need an amazing goalie to win MLS Cup.
I agree.
LA won in 2011 and 2012 with Josh Saunders.
Yep. Who is not an amazing goalie.
who lost the backup job in RSL to Atnella. So.
Right. No, I think that if the Sounders just go with their game plan of scoring more goals than everyone else, no matter what the cost, if we play a lot of 5-4 games, we can still win.
Yeah.
So,
and it was weird. And, if Oba puts home that chance in the 4th minute, maybe it's a different game.
Absolutely. So. This was one of the worst games I've seen Oba play. It's funny because there's such a line, like when everything's going smoothly and you're like, oh man, this creative play, these back heels, these cute little tricks, when they work, everybody's psyched on him. But when they don't, it's like, oh, he got too cute. He needs to get back to fundamentals. It's it's too much trickery that isn't going anywhere. He had a season high giveaways, I think like 22 giveaways this week, and definitely tough. I mean, and it sucks because it was a shellacking. It was what has been the number 1 team in the league in power rankings and table just getting absolutely destroyed, and it completely overshadowed the fact that again the Sounders came from behind to win against Dallas. Not that Dallas is looking particularly sharp, but I mean, if those games had happened in reverse order, I don't know that it would still be in the conversation. It would have been a big deal for like 24 hours, and then, oh, well, the Sounders got right back to winning again. So I think
because that's traditionally what they've done is they've won a lot of games and then
meltdown.
Yeah, I'm just throwing that out. I mean, that is one of the things. Like when they get going, and they've been doing that at least since I've been watching the league, which is I guess since 2009. They have won lots and lots of games in a row and then lost lots and lots of games in a row. Well, they play very, very well and then play very poorly for a stretch after that. And I think this was a game where, at least looking at the stats and stuff, they weren't comprehensively outmatched or anything. They just got caught in lots and lots of bad situations. But
yeah, 65% possession.
Yeah,
65%.
Well, now you sound like a Timbers fan.
But I mean, it goes to your point that it's not like they were dominated. They were caught in bad situations. But they were exploited.
Right, but you've got to wonder about how. I mean, I'm really curious to see how the team bounces back from this because
it's an interesting time, right? We've got all of our World Cup call-ups just happened.
Yep.
Although we are facing a depleted San Jose team at home, so San Jose comes in without Wando, without Bernardez. Without Goodson, and they also have Salinas is off on a red, so they are as depleted, if not more. And I think if you look at pre-World Cup call-ups, I would think you'd have a hard time arguing that San Jose was the better team before. So,
sure.
Yeah, so it really is it a momentum thing? Do we come in and lose a game at home that we should win? Well, then it's going to start looking like a slide real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but even then, I mean. That also sort of begs the question, at what point, and I guess this doesn't matter because Dennis is from Canada and Josh doesn't care about the national team, at what point do we shift our focus from
You're gonna ride that one, aren't you?
Yeah, that is a confident one.
Look, man, yes. At what point do we switch our attentions from club to country? I know I'm already starting to.
I have started the process of watching the 2010 World Cup games. I just watched the first group game against England, which was lovely. I had a great time rewatching that. Because what's so cool about it is that in 2010, ESPN really stepped up their coverage and that whole thing.
Yeah.
So like you can watch those in beautiful like high def surround sound. Like it's just like it's airing right now. It's really awesome. So I had a great time watching that. And they include post game and halftime and just everything. It's incredible. So that's good. I'm enjoying that. I'm getting ramped up for country for sure.
I will say I'm a little bit ticked off. I think I'm just more upset than anything that I ended up losing that debate to some cruise dude. Um,
Well, did you lose the debate, or were you just wrong in Klinsman's eyes?
well, so remember when the Mexico roster was announced, or the roster for the Mexico game was announced, and I said in the comments, "Oh, hey Pete, guess what? Bill Hamid is better than Tally Hall." So if I'm gonna use Klinsman's judgment as a aha, I was right. You know, aha,
That's
I was
true.
wrong. So
That's fair.
it works both
You know,
ways.
one of the parts that you didn't really debate with some cruise dude was
Attitude?
Eddie's attitude, which, you know, if
I didn't think
Matt
it was going to
Doyle
be
is
an
to be
issue.
believed, well, if you drop comments like that right before the selection
Yeah,
process.
I mean, we had that debate before those comments. You know, it's interesting. Klinsman did say that it had nothing to do with it. You
That's just a
probably-
coach.
Yeah,
There's no
it is
way.
coach speak. And,
I don't believe that for a minute. That is lying through your teeth. You
and
know.
with what Doyle indicated, that was it very well could have been the factor.
Listen, I don't want to spend any more time talking about Eddie Johnson. I think there's been enough of that this week. There were 2 other games that had 5 goals in them, and I think those are far more important to talk about.
The RSL game was not that surprising. They just won by a lot.
So
The thing that what we should talk about Chicago, New York, because that was.
I would love to talk about Chicago.
Actually, wait, can I sneak one in really quick?
Yeah.
The result of the weekend that surprised me, Chivas 3, Colorado 1.
Oh shit! You're right.
Right?
Snow game.
Right.
In
Yeah.
a snow game, Chivas, I mean, not to, be like, well, they're from LA, they don't know what snow is, but like, they're from LA.
A lot of them
Maybe
are
they
from-
don't know what snow is.
And
Some
a lot
of them
are
are from Mexico. It doesn't
Yeah,
really matter very
exactly.
much.
And Colorado trains in those conditions.
Right, yeah, and Chivas went up there to altitude and
Yeah.
played very, very, very well. And, Colorado is not horrible. I don't know. I mean, they're not good. They're not,
I
in
think they're
theaters,
good.
they're not an amazing team, but I was very, very surprised by that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as you should have been, because I do think Colorado's good. I think they might not make the playoffs because the West is stacked, but they should make the playoffs. They're a playoff caliber team, and we had a question about if their youth would progress without Berea, and I think it has. I just think this is one of those weird. Chivas has like 3 or 4 weird results a year. Last year they beat New York 3-2. This year they almost beat New York. They were like a kick away from beating New York.
But they also look like a pretty coherent team. They have they've had a couple of people go out with injuries, but they still have. Whenever Andrew John Baptiste comes back from injury, I mean they've got a solid back line. Dan Kennedy is somehow still there. Cubo Torres is starting to really look like a good player, the player a lot of people thought he could be. I mean, they look like a coherent team that I don't think that they're going to make a playoffs, but I think there's going to be a lot more moments like this where we're like, oh yeah, Chivas 3 points, and the next thing you know, you're like, what? Wait, what? How did that happen? And I think it's going to be more than 3 or 4. I wouldn't be surprised if they win more games than Portland.
Now you're just being cynical.
No, I'm
That's
not
a
being
bold
cynical.
claim. I feel like we
Portland's
need to mark that down as a bold claim.
Yeah.
I think Portland's just gonna. I think
you're just
Chivas will
down.
lose. I think Chivas will lose a lot more games than Portland as well. But I think that they might win more games than Portland. I don't think that they'll be above Portland in the standings, but I wouldn't be surprised if they win more games.
Yeah,
That's
I
a
guess
bold
you guys-
claim.
Well, you
That
guys are
is-
probably gonna tie 15 more games in them, so I guess
True.
that's fair.
Hey,
It's true.
speaking
Hey.
of bold claims, this guy, Chicago over New York.
Well, I feel like I made a bold prediction that may have come true. What did I say? Oh no, I didn't.
It wasn't that bold.
I said either Failhaber or Map would make it into the roster, and neither did.
Yeah, that's map really. I mean, with no call-ups, with no. I mean,
he's just been out of the picture, and I actually.
yeah.
And I hear a lot of grief, incidentally, from New England fans who are like, "Where the hell are the calls for all of our guys?" And I think they have a point because they
I do
haven't
too.
and they have Andrew Farrell, and they have Diego Fagundes. Obviously, he's got some citizenship issues, but they've got a few people who should at least be getting looks.
Lee Win is
for sure.
He is absolutely a head scratcher that he wasn't called up earlier. I mean, I know that their form is really good right now, but they went to the playoffs last year. They nearly knocked off Kansas City. I mean, I would agree with them that they've got a claim. That's, they are definitely not getting looked at. Is it the 98 clip art logo? I don't know. I can't say for sure.
Clinton was looking at the logo. He's like, nah, we can't call that.
He's like, this can't be a serious team. This is an American amateur team, right? This is.
I mean, New England, they played the most exciting playoff series in the East last year. Granted, the other two involved Houston, but still. I like them. I want to see them. I'm sure they'll get their due eventually. Maybe they'll win MLS Cup and screw everybody up. I mean, they're not losing anybody to the World Cup. They could just tack up some points in the World Cup break, go to first place, fuck everybody up.
Well, according to Siggy, that we would get our chance at revenge in the Cup. Maybe that's Sounders and Revs. That could be a big shakeup for the league.
I mean, it's not out of the question. Grant Wall picks the Revs to win MLS Cup, so.
I did not know that.
Yeah, well now you do.
So would that be a football line MLS Cup final?
Shit.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would.
Hey, only if they host. Only if they host.
Say what?
Only if they host.
No, either way.
Either way, they're both.
Wait, who was? Oh,
Patriots, Seahawks.
Oh,
you remember? Yeah.
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah.
Which, okay, by the way, makes it really exciting that Arthur Blank said that there would never be football lines. I find that just hysterical that Atlanta has some.
They don't have rain, and they also have a roof. That's probably their big things that they have that you guys don't have, or they don't have that you guys.
This is gonna sound kind of odd, but there's a new paint line technology coming out in the next 3 to 6 months, from what I've heard from TFC.
Dennis with the inside info.
Yeah. So keep that in mind. They're working on it. It's not 100%.
No, I've heard that on the Sounders side as well.
Field turf, though. Can you apply it to field turf?
That is yes.
I've heard the same thing. Okay. Yeah, the Sounders have had the same rumors about potential new technology to avoid those lines, those gridiron lines.
Yeah.
Hey, so Seattle, the Seahawks are away on Sunday, December 7th, which is the day after MLS Cup would be, and the Patriots are also away, so we're good.
Hey, all right. You heard it here first. Seattle, New England, MLS Cup. Guys, we're running a little long today. Do we want to move on to some other news, or do you have any other big game? I mean, I know we didn't really talk much about Chicago, New York, but
we also didn't talk at all about the TV deal. Like,
that's what I wanted. Yeah,
we talked about that, but we talked about Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Doyle brought it up, or I brought it up, and he then answered. But I think we should still talk about it.
I think the thing that you said something, Pete, about watching the group stage game against England that ESPN did, and that is what excites me the most, because they did a fucking good job with the South Africa World Cup. They're gonna they did. They're gonna do a even fucking better job. I don't know how to put the vulgarities in there, but they're gonna do a good job in Brazil.
They're gonna fucking blow it out.
Yeah,
guys, we've reached our fucks per minute.
Yeah,
hold on. Dial it back.
Well, and Ian just admitted that he doesn't know how to swear, both of which.
No, you're right. And they came out and basically said, I believe that the term was that was just a warm-up. You know?
And so John Skipper, since he's been executive vice president of content at ESPN, has made soccer a big priority at ESPN, which is great, because ESPN, as much as we don't like this fact, they do drive sports narrative in our country more than anybody else, right?
Yes.
So if they're behind soccer, that means eventually they are going to get to doing something similar to the domestic league, because something doesn't have to be big for them to make it big. Mm-hmm. Like they did that with the World Cup in 2010. It was already big everywhere else. It wasn't quite big here. They did that with America's Cup, the yachting thing, in the 80s.
Look at poker. Poker's a great
Yeah.
example.
Poker,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now that they're putting, the full weight of their resources behind MLS in a way that they hadn't done before, we're gonna see perhaps some growth from that directly, which I am super fucking excited about.
So I got a
I'm-
question for you guys. If you don't
Yeah.
have a cable subscription in the States, I'm not really sure how this even works with you guys, but if you don't have a cable subscription, and are you gonna still be able to watch out-of-market games, or how's that gonna work?
I'm not
So,
sure. No
it's
one's
still-
really. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so if we take the model that currently exists, if we take ESPN exactly as it is now, you have kind of two ways of accessing online content.
Okay.
If you have a cable provider let's say television provider that is in the ESPN family of companies that they work with.
That's already infuriating as hell, but continue.
Right, absolutely. So for a good example would be DirecTV is not included. So if you're paying for satellite from DirecTV, I think Dish either, I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think either satellites do it. It's mostly like telecom and cable companies. If you get those channels, if you get ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN Deportes, ESPN U,
Classic.
college stuff, then you can access that stuff online via ESPN3 or like a 360, like a Xbox One 360,
Mhm.
PS4 app,
Yeah.
all that. The other option is what they call ESPN3. So that is their exclusively digital channel. So it's not an option on the television, and you have access to that again typically
Okay.
in most cases, and that's actually by your internet provider. So one, all the good like premium content, your standard ESPN that's going to show a lot of stuff, you have to have some sort of television service. ESPN3, which mostly has been international soccer, NCAA
Small-time college
sports,
basketball.
yeah, small-time sports for college, that sort of thing, is all linked to your internet service provider. So, for example, I have Comcast. Comcast has an agreement with ESPN, so even though I don't pay for ESPN television, I get ESPN3. But with this agreement,
That sounds horrifying.
it's already a bad start because we're also used to how great of a platform MLS Live is. I think we can all agree that
Yeah.
for the price we pay, the technology, the resolution, the options like condensed matches, and all that stuff, it's incredibly archived for years back. It's a great service. I absolutely love it. So there is some concern that switching over, but they've also been very explicit and said, if you don't have access to ESPN3 already, if you don't have that access, you will somehow be able to get it. And
I think
that's the wishy-washy part. Is,
Okay,
are you going
I
to pay
think I
for
got a
package?
solution for you guys a little bit here. MLS Live is coming to Canada next year, I found out in the last 24 hours.
Correct.
We don't have any of this. Why don't
Correct.
you just jump on a VPN and...
So that's the goal. That's certainly what I plan
you told me to do when I told the subreddit that I might be moving to Finland. And I'm like, how the hell do I? watch
Yeah,
MLS?
don't tell
And you're
them
like,
publicly because they might cut your account down, right? But
Oh yeah, you're right.
My plan is definitely to go that route,
gonna-
Dennis. My plan is to go that route if the VPN
Mhm.
works. Although I have seen other sports leagues in the past go by the billing account. So if you're using a Visa, it's got to be Canadian billing. So you
That's
might
what
have to set up some post office boxes for us.
yeah, that's yeah. If you got means you guys can watch MLS. I trust me. You guys can have usage of that.
So obviously this deal is such that it's not for us. It's not for the hardcore fans who are going to find a way to watch games anyway.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep,
However-
that's accurate.
However, they would do well to keep us happy, and I think they're going to. I mean, they've always done that, right? So at least for the last 7 years or so,
The language that they've used has been a little nebulous as far as how people that don't have access to ESPN3 are going to get access, whether that's going to be a paid package like MLS Live or if it's going to be everyone has access to ESPN3 if you're watching MLS. That's what we're hoping for. We're hoping it's a free package where no matter who you are, you could watch MLS games live out of market on ESPN3 without paying a dime. That's the hope, and it seems like it might go that way.
That would be awesome.
really, I think
Yeah.
Well, depending
I
on
highly
who
doubt
your
that.
internet provider is, depending on who your internet provider is, because that's also a deal between ESPN.
No. I'm saying not based on your internet provider, because anyone like me who
Yeah.
has ESPN3, I'm
Yeah.
not going to have to pay anything next year. I
Right.
will not
That's
pay
true.
a dime for the package.
Oh, right, yeah. If you already have ESPN3, but I'm
But if
saying
you
like some.
don't-
Oh yeah, because why would they need to go through the internet providers? Because they could just do that. They could just say, hey,
If
if you're
it's just for this sport, if it's you're not going to get access to the college ball, you're not going to get access to anything else, but anyone can go to ESPN3 and say, I want to watch a live MLS game.
Awesome.
That's the hope. We don't know yet.
But let me ask you another question. And again, very short on details because it's very early in. But what happens to the advertising? What kind of, because it's very hard to get your money back from that kind of a deal, especially if you're streaming online, all that bandwidth and everything is.
It's the same sort of thing with MLS Live. I mean, there's
It's
hardly
not,
any
though.
advertising.
It's not.
And that's why it's going to change. So if you has anybody used the NBC Sports Network streaming?
Yes.
Okay, I've used that as well. And the difference between that and MLS Live, even if you're going to watch an MLS game or a Premier League game, is that rather than getting a true 100% full screen, you're getting about an 85% screen with ads around the corners and top and bottom.
Okay.
I would not be shocked to see ESPN3, hey, we're going to offer you this free live service. You're going to get 75% of the screen filled, and the rest will be filled up with ads. Because everybody knows that Americans love ads with sports, and with a sport that doesn't have more than one break in the middle.
Yeah.
True. That's really what I think most time I'm watching a soccer game. It's like, where are the ads? What is this shit? I haven't seen a McDonald's ad yet.
I'm still waiting to see the new trailer for Divergent. I can't wait.
That looks so awful. I've been getting into the NBA playoffs, and I'm trying to. I really am, and I like a lot of it. But goddamn, do they have so many ads in the final fucking 3 minutes? Because everybody saves their timeouts. There's literally 7 timeouts in the last 3 minutes of an NBA game, and they go to ads every time, even if it's just 30-second timeout.
And Ian, to take it back to your point, I do think that this deal is not for us hardcore fans. I hope you're right, and I hope they make us happy. But to Matt's point earlier, the fact that for 8 years we're going to have MLS on TV on the same channel at the same time, week after week after week. That's the deal, right? It's the dream. In addition to the fact that if the numbers are correct, we're going to get $90 million a year as opposed to the 83 that the Premier League gets from NBC. So that's huge to me. That's a big deal.
Now, when they re-up, that number's going to grow, obviously.
Of course.
But for now, we get to
4 or 5 years. Yeah, it's not a short contract over there. So, listen, I think it's time for the lightning round, everybody's favorite event of our /MLS podcast. We got a couple of items that we don't need to spend a lot of time on, but I do want to get your thoughts. New crest for Orlando City.
Looks great.
Good job, Orlando.
Hooray, Orlando. So
I
is
like
that
purple.
unanimous?
I like purple. Fiorentina is one of my favorite soccer jerseys because of that great, beautiful purple. So I'm glad.
And the purple's better. I didn't like the previous Orlando purple. It has changed in shade. Yeah. It looks like they dropped the red highlights to just go kind of purple and gold and really go for that royalty regal look. I would love to see a gold second kit. That would be pretty exciting. If they did.
No one has that. No one has purple. No one has gold.
Nobody has gold. That would be incredible. So I think we could see some exciting fashion come out of those guys.
Are you imagining a gold lame sort of thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that really fits with my stereotype of Florida, though not northern Florida, more southern. But.
That's true. But yes, I agree with it.
What is lame?
It's the shiny stuff.
Oh.
I'm envisioning a shiny gold.
Yeah, just really. All right.
Next up. Disco. All right, moving on. Garber says, "Fuck the winter schedule."
Yeah, well,
of course.
He literally said that too.
That was.
So wait, do you think he said that once they were like, "Okay, here's your new TV deal," and he's like, "Cool, remember that? Fuck that, I'm never doing that."
That's exactly what he did. It was during. It was during the. It was during the fucking
announcement.
It was during the announcement. He's like, someone asked, so what about the winter schedule? And he's like, you know what? Germany's already thinking about moving to us. It might turn out in 5 years that we were right. He said that. He did say that, and I thought that was awesome. Mm-hmm. So I was like,
you know what? I agree with him. I think that we're actually going to see that change in the next 5 to 10 years.
Because, like Jeremy said, why are they taking a break in the best soccer playing weather? I mean, I just don't. I mean,
It's ridiculous.
It's great playing soccer here in Minnesota in the summer. It never gets hot, and I imagine that's how it is in most of Europe. So yeah.
All right, new plan, guys. Don
Yeah.
Garber needs to be our next guest.
Wow. Good luck.
So we have Doyle. We're getting Dan, his last name.
Just
You know.
Dan.
Just Dan. Getting a Dan.
Gothamus. I think it's Dan Dickinson.
Can we get Simon Bork?
Oh my God! How epic would that be?
That would be pretty exciting. You know what? Hey, we've got an in now. Our buddy Matt.
Yeah. And we had made plans at the very beginning of last year to bring in Devin Pluler. Like that was going to be like our third episode, and that never happened.
That was my
wow.
He and I chat a lot, and I screwed that up. I'll get back in touch with him. He's a nerd, so he likes nerd stuff. You can talk to him about data science.
He could nerd out with us. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
All right, we're moving on. Tomorrow is the second round of the U.S. Open Cup, which is really exciting.
Yeah, this is when it gets fun. This is when the USL Pro teams come in.
Yeah, USL Pro starts tomorrow. I'm excited about that.
Actually, one of them's going on right now. Arizona United is losing to the Timbers U23s.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler, people already have known.
I guess this is.
Oh, that's on right now. I suppose I could watch that. Or yeah, that's right. They emailed me earlier today, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to come to a game?" And I was like, "Well, it's a bit of a
I
drive.
got this thing I gotta do.
And I live like 4 hours away, so."
Okay, so that's the end of the Open Cup. Yay, it's tomorrow and I guess today, so that's cool. Looks like it's time for our Canadian Minute with Dennis.
Oh yes,
Wait,
reporting
what?
here on the scene live in Canada. Canadian Championship just started last week, and Toronto beat Vancouver 2-1. It should have been more like a 4-1.
Yeah,
game.
you guys
That's the way
barely
Vancouver is playing. Yep, they're playing a B-side, and Toronto didn't play very well.
And you
What
guys,
else is new?
used Michael Bradley against Vancouver's B-side. And
Right. Let's not talk about that anymore. Let's move on over to Edmonton and Montreal, which Edmonton beat Montreal 2-1.
So can we just say that Montreal is officially a dumpster fire and they are the worst team in the league right now?
Correct.
I mean,
Yeah,
correct.
not
You
only
fucking
dumpster
suck,
fire.
Montreal.
Who says we're not objective?
especially with
And then-
Kivas getting the road win, you have to give it to Montreal at this point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially I read an article about how they're even more of a dumpster fire in the front office. Remember how I was talking about at the very beginning of the season, teams who suck at front office shit kind of end up sucking on the field, and
Yeah.
how Montreal was
Really?
getting
Wait,
towards
I've
that.
never heard this before.
Shouldn't have got rid of Schalabom.
Well, I don't. Maybe they shouldn't have gotten rid of Jesse Marsh.
Yeah.
They're
You know,
very
like,
good.
Yeah, that's probably better.
I remember at one point someone who was a Montreal fan talking on our MLS, and what he said was, you can take the team out of USL Pro, can't take the USL Pro out of the team.
I remember that.
And I was like, I've never thought about Montreal that way. And I started reading a little more about Joey Saputo, and he does sound like he's a little just...
Scummy.
Well, he's like
Bush League.
He's like Merritt Paulson, but minus the like charming stuff that Merritt does, and just the like kind of like obnoxious, weird sort of pretentious, weird shit that Merritt does.
I'm interested in the charming stuff. What?
Well, we just don't. We don't.
What?
Alligator hunting, is that charming? What's the charming
No,
part of
no.
Merritt Paulson?
Hey, I find that charming.
The arranging for the Make-A-Wish Foundation to have a child come out and play.
Yeah, that.
Oh,
that
let's
thing.
keep trotting that out again. No, I
Well, 'cause no one else knows that.
I love that story. It's the best.
So, anyways, yeah. So Saputo is like everything you don't like about Merritt, and then like none of the stuff that some people do like about it. Sounds bad. So anyway, sorry, but yeah, it sounds like they have some big FO and back office problems there.
Yeah,
Maybe they'll get it sorted out.
but not
Anything else, guys, before bold predictions for the week?
this year.
And
No.
do we want to edit in Matt Doyle's bold prediction here, or are we going to leave it where it is?
No, we should leave it.
We're leaving it where it is.
Okay, so sorry I said anything.
You better be. You know, we're actually doing pretty good on time. We're only we started with Matt like 80 minutes ago, so.
Well, it's also 8:30, so I'm not doing great on time. I'm going to go ahead and get going soon.
It's
If you guys would like to
11:30
continue,
here,
Well,
so
no, why,
I need
but
to go to
I'm-
bed.
I'm
Yeah.
saying that,
like lengthwise,
yeah, it's not going to be a bitch to edit.
that's awesome. I'm really excited because if you can get it up tomorrow.
I'm getting up tomorrow morning.
Oh, you're the best. That's perfect.
Now, when do you think? Because like I would love to maximize this. What do you think?
Yes. Just-
I'm putting it out on iTunes at 7 in the morning, and I might wait until like 11 to put it on Reddit.
I like that. I like that.
Awesome.
And
So it doesn't matter. It
you know,
doesn't matter when you put it on iTunes. You know, it's just like
Yeah.
it goes out people, whatever. So I'm putting it there as soon as possible. I'm waiting.
yeah, of course.
Mhm.
Well, think long and hard about what you want your title to be. You know, make it solid. We got faith in you, Ian.
Make it clickbaity, but not like BuzzFeed clickbaity, you know?
I really feel like
You'll
I mean,
never
I was-
believe what happens next.
I was just gonna do the standard. MLS analyst joins our /MLS this week to talk blah 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 blah. I feel like people on the sub know him. It's like, oh shit, that guy's there. I mean, that's how we got so many views from some cruise dude. Is like that format. So
Awesome.
Okay.
Let's do it then.
And please, 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 when it's live,
I will email all of you. Yes.
No, tweet and,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
mention
tweet.
his
Yeah, yeah,
name
yeah.
because if we can get him to retweet it, that's the goal.
Yeah, that's it.
And then we'll have to start using the Twitter account. So
I have
Yeah.
an idea. I have an idea about that once the Twitter account gets like 50 followers or something.
I don't even care about that. I just want him to listen. Because if 300 people that have never listened to us and maybe don't go on Reddit happen to listen to that would be fucking awesome.
Yes.
That'd be great.
So, bold predictions? Dennis, your team's got back-to-back games against both Vancouver and New York. And
Yes.
I'm going to get it started early and say that Toronto gets back on track and squeaks out a win at home against New York.
I hope so.
Now, granted,
I
there's
really
a
do.
game before that, and maybe getting on track has already started. But I think that New York needs this win, and so do you. And I think you're gonna get a 1-goal victory at home.
Well, I thank you for that, sir. I'll be at the match, and I'll keep you posted with the Canadian Soccer Report Minute.
Appreciate that.
My not bold prediction. My sort of bold prediction is that Toronto manages to find a way to beat Vancouver in the second leg today. It'll be today, Wednesday.
It's a good way to confuse people.
Yeah.
And what's the current scoreline there?
Toronto's up 2-1.
And do away goals count?
You know what? That's actually a very good question. It was a format
Dennis,
change this year.
you're the Canadian master. This is your wheelhouse.
We don't know how you run your trophies up there.
Oh, no way. Yeah, away goals do count.
yeah, traditionalist.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Is one of those. You know, I've actually, so I looked at away goals. I sort of hated the fact that we're going to start using away goals in the MLS playoffs, but then I started looking at like seeded things that use away goals versus seeded things that don't use away goals. Away goals might be the way to go.
I like away goals.
If we're trying to reward higher seeds, away goals might be smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Based
Josh,
on
what do you got for us?
statistics.
Prediction. Oh my god, my bold prediction. I really don't. I mean, I'm looking at the fixture list coming up, and I'm just not. Chicago beats KC. There we go.
Ooh, bold.
That'd be. I really
2
hope
in a row. That'd be a huge boost for them to go on the road and beat the
Yeah.
Red Bulls and then go home and beat SKC would be huge.
Yeah, I bet they'll squeak something weird out. I bet it'll be a weird game, but the thing is, I can see Chicago scoring a lot of goals, and I can see Kansas City just somehow not quite capitalizing on Chicago's shape.
You know what? That is the definition of a bold prediction. I will accept it.
All right.
Is it
Basically,
though?
what I do every
They don't have
week
Zeus
for
and
bold
Beezer
prediction
anymore.
is like, KC might lose. That's my point. Hey, somebody might beat those guys.
I hope that doesn't happen because fuck Chicago. First of all, I hate the city of Chicago. Or I shouldn't say that. People will get really mad at me.
Yeah, you should edit that out.
Just dropping bombs.
Yeah. Wow, what's
Okay,
going on?
here's what I will actually say. I prefer the city of New York to the city of Chicago. I think Chicago's a poor man's New York, and it's a poor man's Minneapolis. All right.
Ian dropping truth bombs on the podcast.
Yeah.
But the real thing is I don't want another team to compete with, because if Chicago beats Kansas City, that's another team we have to compete with in the East. And I'm happy letting Montreal and Chicago and Philadelphia just in their squalor at the bottom three in the East. That pleases me. Then we only have to beat out 2 more teams.
This pleases me. Good. All right. Well, the sun's almost going down, gents. Pete,
Guys,
what do you
I'm
got?
gonna call this a wrap on a great podcast.
What's your prediction?
I gave my
Oh,
prediction.
we're missing mine, I think.
No,
Oh,
we're also missing mine.
Wait,
Uh,
that doesn't
Pete, just do
matter.
another prediction. Just ignore those.
Okay. My prediction is I'm gonna take Matt Doyle's road, and I'm gonna say that Colorado gets a result in Salt Lake.
Wow.
Not necessarily a win, but a result.
Yeah. Okay.
Bold prediction.
That's pretty bold.
I'm going to go and stay in my homeland and stay with the Igloos and say that Edmonton makes the final of the Canadian Championship, beating Montreal, and then Montreal's going to panic front office in the next 2 weeks.
That's
Ooh.
Nice.
yeah. I kind of hope
Like
that
it.
happens because Edmonton. Yeah. My bold prediction is that the Carolina Dynamo, an amateur team, are going to take down the Charlotte Eagles, a USL Pro team, tomorrow or today or whatever, and move on to play the Carolina Railhawks, and then lose to them again. So
Okay.
So that is an all Carolinas prediction.
basically.
Okay, so Carolina will beat Carolina and then go on to play Carolina.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just making sure I got that straight. Cool.
Carolina wins.
Gentlemen, well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
All right. Well,
All right.
thanks again for listening, everybody. Have a great week. And as always, you can tweet us and email us, and we'll probably get back to you really
We're
quick.
on iTunes, we're on Stitcher,
Yeah,
those things.
those things. You're probably listening on one of those places, but if not, you should be. All right,
Yes.
everybody have a great week.
All right.
Cool. I'm just going to stop broadcast.